The Warren JFK Eagles are the top seed in Division 7, Region 25, and they go into the quarterfinals as the team to beat in this region, hence they're the number one seed. In the Sweet 16 matchup against Lowellville, they survived everything that Lowellville threw at them, including the kitchen sink, in a very high-scoring game. And to talk about that game and to preview the game against Norwalk St. Paul, we bring in the head football coach of the Warren JFK Eagles, Dom Prologo. Coach, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. How surprised were you that Lowellville was throwing everything they possibly could at you in the first half in what turned out to be a really high-scoring game?
You know, we weren't really that surprised at what they did. I guess we were a little bit more surprised at how well they did it. We were. That's what we prepared for. But their quarterback is really, really good. Their receivers played really, really well. And, didn't give us a chance to get pressure on their quarterback because the ball was out so quick. And we weren't overly shocked by what they did. It's just how well they did it. It was a little disappointing that, we came out the first half and maybe didn't play our best. But I certainly don't want to take anything away from Lowellville. They earned their the 26 first half points they scored.
Well, obviously, in the second half, you guys made some adjustments, and Lowellville was only able to get 7 points in the second half, and you guys started keeping up in what looked like a track meet in the first half. You guys were in the 100-meter dash mentality in the second half, where Lowellville, thanks to some adjustments by you guys, was stopped pretty much cold in the second half, only getting a touchdown, and that resulted in a very impressive 32-point victory for the Eagles.
Yeah, we did. We made some adjustments to what they were doing, and to take away what they wanted to do, and that kind of changed the outcome of the game. And then offensively, we were in fifth gear from the time we got off the bus till we got back on the bus. So that was good. But defensively, like I said, we kind of walked into the game a little bit, little slow, and it took us a while to get going. But Lowellville did a great job. And their, like I said, their quarterback, being only a sophomore, got some young targets that he throws to. I was, for Lowellville, they should be real excited about that.
Warren JFK head football coach Dom Prologo joining me on a Thursday edition of Running Point on ysnlive.com. How surprised were you? And this game was played on a Saturday night at Norwalk because of scheduling conflict. How surprised were you to see St. Paul beat the Southern the way they did, only giving up 14 points en route to a 34-point victory over the Indians?
The score was a little bit surprising. I did drive up there and actually got to see that game live. So I guess that was the neat thing about them playing on a Saturday was I was able to actually see the game, which this year that's not easy to do, with all the restrictions and everything that they have. But during the playoffs, we're allowed to, if you can, which we were able to because their game got moved to Saturday, you're allowed to go bring two coaches are allowed to go scout your opponent. So I would be surprised if St. Paul came down and saw us on Friday. I don't know that to be a fact, but I did drive up there Saturday and watch them play. We played them before in 2016, and they're a real physical group, and Coach Livengood does a great job with that. He does what he does, and he does it every single year, and they're physical on both sides of the ball. The offensive style they play is physical. And sitting in the stands watching the game, that bus ride that Southern had to take, I've done that a couple of times with Canfield where we had to drive all the way down to Columbus. And that's not easy for the kids to handle. We've never had a whole lot of success driving from Canfield during the playoffs down to Columbus and playing. So again, that I think watching Southern come out for the game, I was not shocked to see that they were kind of slow walking through the whole beginning of the pregame and everything else. And then the game just kind of snowballed on them. And I don't think that they were prepared for the physicality that they saw, and they never recovered from that. You know, at halftime the game was out of hand, and they never kind of recovered from that. So, but, you know, not taking anything away from St. Paul, St. Paul went into the game with a game plan, and that was to be physical, and they did. They were very physical with Southern, and I'm not sure Southern has seen that type of physicality all year with the schedule they played. But you know, like I said, we played against them. They looked like a mirror image of the team we played back in 16, and they haven't changed anything. I mean, the funny thing is I took out my scouting report from my file of 16, and it's almost identical to the one I put together for this week. You know, the only thing we had to change were the numbers on the jerseys. Other than that, they do the same thing. So, you know, that game, the score was surprising, but being there and watching it, you know, I saw it all, you know, happening in front of me, and I wasn't surprised as the game went on, the way things were going.
Coach, the fact that you saw that game, you don't necessarily have to get film of that game if you aren't wanting to request it, because you were obviously there to see the game. On film, did they look exactly the same as they did against Southern Local, or were there any wrinkles?
No, it was the same stuff. You know, they're a team that is going to run the ball out of power sets, and then, you know, your safeties, your DBs got to get involved in that run game, and then boom, the next thing you know, their eyes aren't disciplined, and then they hit you with the play action pass, and that really in the first half was a real problem for Southern. So no, they've done this. They've run the same offense. They didn't do anything that was considered a trick play that they hadn't already done before on film. And you know, we have a few of their films from the season, so no, I don't think that they did any trick plays. They just do what they do, and you know, that's the biggest concern with them. You know, we were fortunate to play a team in Garrettsville Garfield early in the year who ran a similar offense, and you know, it's a power offense. They try to run the ball down your throat, and you know, your secondary has to get involved tackling people. And then, bam, the next thing you know, Garrettsville hit us on 2 pass plays that day. And, you know, that ended up being the difference in the game. So, similar situation. You know, we knew those pass plays were coming. It's just your kids don't have that eye discipline because they've got to be so involved in the run game.
You get lulled to sleep pretty quickly when they continue to run play after play after play. You're doing the run, and then you're just going to assume everyone's going to run. You'll put 9 guys in the box, and all of a sudden there's the fake handoff, and now you're caught with your pants down.
No doubt, and that's what happened against Garrettsville. And you know, that's the biggest challenge. I'll be honest with you. You know, I expect our kids to rise up and actually play even more physical than St. Paul does. You know, that's going to be a big part in the game. We've said that since I walked in the door at Kennedy in 14 with Coach Bayek. My line to our kids is the most physical team always wins. So I expect our kids to show up and be the most physical team Friday night. But and you know what? I'm not so sure we weren't the most physical team against Garrettsville that night. But I will tell you, again, we didn't have great eye discipline. They got us on a couple of plays, and that's going to be the biggest challenge for us this Friday night is making sure that guys like, you know, our safeties like Cam Hollabaugh and you know, Jesse Likens, they're involved in that run game because they're going to need to be, but they've got good enough eye discipline that when it's a play action pass, they're going to be able to cover the guys they're supposed to.
Well, Coach, this question needs to be asked then. It's one thing to be physical, but not have the bodies up front to really be physical. I mean, you can be physical with guys weighing 195, 200 pounds across the line, But there's a difference between that kind of physicality and physicality with guys that are 255, 265, and up across the line. Is this team as big and as physical as, say, Garrettsville, Garfield, or are they a smaller brand of physical?
Smaller brand of physical. Smaller brand of physical. Yeah, they're not gonna pose that. Garrettsville was a lot bigger than we were across the board. This St. Paul is not. Man on man, we may actually be. This may be a week, maybe one of the first all year, because of our schedule, where our size may be just a little bit bigger than them. I'm not saying a whole lot, but 5 pounds a man or maybe an inch here or there. We may be a little bigger than them, but so it is. It's a smaller group of kids, but they play with just as much tenacity as the kids from Garrettsville did.
Well, and that brings up an interesting point because, look, I mean, play action is wonderful, but you have to establish the run in order for people to buy into a play action. So stopping the run is first and foremost. I'm curious, are you guys going to automatically put a chess piece out there and say, we're going to go 9 in the box? Now, why don't you try to throw the ball on us before you do your play action pass and force the issue?
Yeah, we're going to do what we do. I've always felt that way. I've been doing this a long, long time, and whether I was doing it at Canfield, Hubbard, or JFK, we do what we do. We worry about us and taking care of our business. So we're going to run our defense. Certainly we may roll a safety down here or there to add an extra body on certain rundowns, but we're going to do what we do. And again, going back to what you said, if they're good enough to establish the run, then that play action is going to become even loom as a bigger part. Where Garrettsville was able to establish the run a little bit, I think they had 119 yards rushing against us. So that's why that play action became such a big deal. Friday, look, when you play JFK, the first thing you can guarantee is our game plan is to take away your run game. And if you and force you to do something you don't want to do. And going back to your first question about Lowellville, Lowellville, they came into the game and didn't even really attempt to run the ball against us. They just did what they wanted to do, and that was they're a passing team, and that's why they had some success in the first half. But a team like this, we're going to force you to we're hopeful that we can force you to do something you don't want to, and that's throw the ball.
No, and here's the thing: when we start talking about JFK defensively, wait a second, we got to start talking about JFK offensively because hey, this just in: 65 points against Lowellville. You guys can play offense, so that's something Norwalk St. Paul's going to have to worry about. I mean, okay, sure, you got to score some points, but good Lord, that defense had better play a ridiculously good game. Otherwise, we got problems here. Yeah,
we again certainly JFK. We've always hung our hat on our defensive side, but it's awfully nice when we're putting up the type of points that we are. It takes a little bit of the pressure off you, that there's been times around here that we've had to hold people to 10 points and under to get done what we wanted to get done. And right now, again, we've got a great offensive coaching staff. Dom Menendez being our offensive coordinator, been around for a long, long time. And, John Elliott, basically calling the plays with him. That they give a great contrast where John is that guy that wants to spread you out and whip it around, and Dom's the guy that wants to get in the stacked eyes, back to his Howland days and run the ball down your throat. So they do a great job, and we've got some weapons over there. Cam Hollabaugh is as good a player as D7's going to see. The funny thing about Cam is. Dom Menendez last year coached at Warren Harding, and John was at Fitch, John Elliott, and both of those guys said here's a kid that could start at both of those programs, which are both D2, and he's playing D7. And I coached at Canfield for a lot of years, and Cam Hollaball would have started on pretty much every team we had there. So we're fortunate to have a talent like that playing for us. And then, you add in a guy like Jesse Likens, who just is a burner, does a really good job with the ball in his hands. That speed he has, that's uncommon for D7. You don't ever see that. So we've got some weapons on the offensive side. Our offensive line has really come together and done a great job, played real physical all year. So, when you defend us, there's times you're defending, 11 guys in a phone booth, and when Dom gets in his back eye, and then there's times where, we've got 4 skill guys on the outside that you've got to defend all 4 of them, because all 4 of them have been in the end zone this year.
Coach, before we let you go, I'm really curious to get your opinion on this. You guys at the beginning of the postseason, you had everyone seated via a vote. And as it turns out, we go into the quarterfinals, which is, since 1999, this is the start of the playoff season. I'm looking at the top 8 teams that, we were supposed to have the top 8 teams. It's pretty much gone chalk. One's going to play 8, JFK and Norwalk, St. Paul. 4 is going to play 5, Dalton's going to play Malvern. Lucas, the 2 seed, is going to play number 10, Independence, who upset Monroeville last week, 28-20. And the 3 seed, Leetonia, is going to play the 6 seed, McDonald. Kudos to the coaching staff, all of the coaches in D7 Region 25. I mean, you guys should all be nicknamed Nostradamus for what you did, because this is about as good as you get in terms of having the top 8 get to the quarterfinals. 7 out of 8. That's a fantastic number.
Yeah, it is. The coaches did a great job of seeding everybody, and everybody, I think, I want to say majority of coaches in our region probably went online like I did and looked at Joe Itell's site and just said, for 30 years, we've basically been using this system to seed our teams. Why would it be any different just because of COVID? So what I think you saw was most coaches basically just said, we're going to seed this thing just like the Joe Itell website had it, and by the point system. And obviously what this is proving, and what you just said proves it, that the system that Ohio has set up with playoffs is right. That's the way it's supposed to be, because you get your, even if we expanded the playoffs, you're still getting your best team still playing. And so again, going back to the way Ohio does it, obviously we do it the right way with our computer point system.
The only thing that I would probably wonder about, and obviously you have to have, in a perfect world, all regions would have the same amount of teams, and they do that for a reason. But man, you had some teams that were over in the western central part of the state that were part of Region 25, and that is kind of strange to see a school over near Bucyrus being part of all of this. And Norwalk, St. Paul, I mean, they got a distance travel in the, well, they didn't have to travel, but Southern had to travel over to Norwalk. Norwalk is kind of on the outskirts of Region 25. So it's, from that perspective, I kind of shake my head, but by and large, I mean, they got this right. There's no two ways about it.
No doubt. Yeah, it took me 2 hours and 20 minutes to get from my house in Canfield out to Norwalk Saturday night. So that was a pretty decent trip. I think they're probably going to have about a 2-hour bus ride to get to Mollenkoff Friday night. And Southern, if I took 220 to get from Canfield, Southern probably had pretty darn near a 3-hour ride to get out there. But, Norwalk was in our region back in 2016. Our state championship year, and we played them for the regional finals that year. So now the last couple of years, they have not been in our region. But again, this year they're back in it again, and so we like I said, that is out there. I mean, our region is absolutely huge geographically.
Should be an awful lot of fun Friday night at Mollenkopf, and it's good to have you guys back at Mollenkopf. I know Liberty was a fantastic host for your Sweet 16 matchup against Lowellville, but always good to be back home at Mollenkopf playing games in that iconic stadium up in Warren.
There's no doubt. It's nice. It's going to be great to get back home again and play. That's the one thing about the schedule we played. It allowed us to earn that number one seed, which means we get to stay home all the way through the regional finals now. Originally they had said maybe just through the regional semis. We got an email this week that said that, the top seeded team in the regional finals has the choice if they want to play home or if they want to move the game somewhere else. So if we're fortunate enough to continue this run and get to the regional finals, we'll be home at Mollenkopf all the way through that game. And I'd imagine that the only time you're going to see a team that would be willing to maybe give that up, that home field advantage, is and play somewhere neutral, as if they have a grass field, it's really tore up, or their stadium only holds 2,000 people and they want to get to a bigger venue to be able to allow, with the COVID rules, allow more of their family and friends to come see them play. I
was going to ask who in the heck would, in their right mind, would do that. But, you bring up two excellent points. I mean, I know my alma mater, they have a grass field and it's a small stadium. If they were the higher seed left, I'm sure that they wouldn't want to play their game in Leetonia. They'd want to play their game in a bigger stadium to allow more fans to come. So that's a fantastic point, Coach.
Yep. That's probably the only way you're going to see a team who has that ability to do that change. But and that was exciting that we found that out. But certainly we got to go take care of business on the field. We've got. You go back to the seeding. I'm going to be honest with you. Norwalk St. Paul, I think probably was seeded a little bit low in this seeding. They're a really good football team. Their running back is going to be all we can handle. He runs, their physical style up front, and then they have a running back that's a punisher. They lost their quarterback for a couple of weeks, and last week I showed up at Southern, and wouldn't you know, he was back last week. And I don't, talking to some people that were at the game, they were, even the people from Norwalk St. Paul weren't sure that he was going to play last week. And I know, I can guarantee you, Southern had prepared for the offense that Norwalk had run the 2 weeks prior to that game, against Monroeville and which was a Wildcat style offense. And they really didn't throw the ball at all in those games. It was just they put their one of their better running backs at quarterback and said, okay, we're going to run the Wildcat. And then Southern shows up and boom, here comes number 11, their starting quarterback. He's back. And, he, like I said, he threw 4 touchdowns in the first half on play action passes, which I guarantee you Southern wasn't thinking were coming because they didn't practice for it all week, in my opinion.
It should be a great game, and best of luck to you. And I guess the most important thing in all of this, outside of the game, keep everyone healthy. Clearly, COVID is on the rise in the state of Ohio, and we've already seen one game that has been postponed in the OHSAA playoffs, and certainly we hope that we don't see any more games postponed from here on out, because that's a tough pill to swallow if you tell your kids, hey, by the way, we can't play this game because our school has a COVID issue, and unfortunately because of that we're eliminated from the playoffs. I mean, that's going to be a very, very tough pill to swallow for anyone now that we're into the quarterfinals of the region.
There's no doubt. I didn't even know there was another school. I know the last couple of weeks we've had a few of them. I didn't know we already had one again this week.
Well, fortunately, it's not in Region 25.
Okay.
But as of yesterday, there was one game that was already postponed because of a COVID-related issue. And hopefully, like I said, fingers crossed, there are no more games postponed from here on out, because that's just, as I said, that's a tough pill to swallow.
That's the way we end practice every day, Ron, is I tell our kids, wash your hands as often as you possibly can, to the point where you got to put lotion on them because they're so dry. You gotta keep yourself away from people. You gotta socially distance, and you gotta not go to all those functions that maybe everyone else is. You guys have worked really hard for this, and we don't want to have a COVID situation take it away. So I address that. Our staff addresses that every day. At the end, that's the last thing we say before we excuse the kids off the field is, we address the COVID situation, and we talk to them about wearing their mask in school, washing their hands after every class, just trying to, and I think they get it because, our kids are kind of focused on one thing, and so hopefully they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Hey, Coach, best of luck to you on Friday night against Norwalk St. Paul, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the regional semifinals.
Let's hope. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Bye-bye.
Dom Prologo, the head football coach of the Warren JFK Eagles, on a Thursday edition of Running Points on ysnlive.com.